about you, Johnny Mac, but this is going to be a tough show to get through. Not because we still have months before the regular season gets underway for the Philadelphia Eagles, but the fact that the regular season and postseason and season in general ended last night for the Philadelphia 76ers getting beat. Man, I was just taken aback by that loss last night, and I didn't even sleep well last night. So, yeah, today might be a little bit of a chore to talk about the Eagles for 2 hours. I'm not sure I'm up for it. Are you? Can you carry us today if need be?
Yeah, I can carry you. I'm over it. I'm over it quickly, Jody. On to the next one. On to the next page. You know, I do think it's interesting to correlate the Sixers with the Eagles. I think it tells you something. You know, we've talked to a lot of executives on this show. I've talked to a lot of executives over the years in both the NFL and NBA. One thing they always tell me is toughest thing to do is to evaluate your own team. I think you kind of saw that with the Sixers, and you kind of saw it with the Eagles coming off post Super Bowl 52. So a lot of correlations, and then you have the most obvious one, which would be the derailing of Carson Wentz and Ben Simmons. It's kind of amazing when you talk about players that talented, that high level, and all of a sudden, you know, the mental part of the game starts to creep in, and it can affect anybody. It can affect anybody, Jody.
Yeah, I was on the air when the game started last night on my network job, CBS Sports Radio, and got cleared, I think, about mid-third quarter, somewhere thereabouts. My show ended, so I could just zero in on the game. I actually preferred being on the air because watching and paying attention to it was much more bothersome and painful than only half watching it while attempting to do a show at the same time, which is not easy, but I do it all the time. And I didn't, therefore, because I was on the air, I didn't get a chance to tweet as much as I usually do. I usually throw a couple of insights and comments while the Sixers are playing if I'm not doing a show. And the only tweet that I put out during the show was the fact that I will never forget the play with which Ben Simmons got the ball on the baseline, got behind the defender from 3 feet away, help defense coming in the person of Trae Young, all 6'1" of them. Ben Simmons can absolutely positively slam the ball home, and he passes back out to Matthias Thybulle, who's coming in for a contested attempt at a shot or a dunk. He's got a dunk. There's no one between him and the basket, and the only guy who's even close is little Trae Young, and he passes the ball back out. My God, that guy, you talk about the mental aspect of the game. He is so lost at this stage. I don't know if he can come back. I don't know if he will come back. I don't know if he's coming back to Philadelphia or not. But, man, that guy just had no clue, no heart, no ability to know what to do with the basketball in the middle of that game. That was just flat out sad.
Yeah, it was sad in a lot of ways. And, you know, you talk about pass first. There's nothing wrong with being pass first. A lot of times it can be good. But Ben Simmons is pass first, pass second, pass third, pass fourth, pass fifth. And the reason why is because he doesn't want to go to the free throw line, and he doesn't want to embarrass himself at the free throw line. And it's official, the worst free throw shooting performance in NBA playoff history. Ben Simmons after this playoff run, so to speak. So, look, the guy's lost. The guy's done in this city. Even Joel Embiid said that was the turning point of this game. But I got to tell you, Jody, and this is one of those things, you know, I always say, and I've told you, the most visceral hate I've ever gotten on the Philadelphia South Jersey airwaves is pointing out the flaws of Ben Simmons. Now you have this sort of pendulum effect of the whole city turns on him. So now I'm going to go in the other direction. You know, the guy is talented. Obviously, he is completely lost. He is ineffective offensively. He is not a star player. He is not an all-star player. He's none of that. He's a role player. And if you put the right roles around him, he could be an effective player, which is disappointing compared to what you thought he was going to be at the start of this. But I got to tell you, anybody who's surprised by this, you can go back to Boston when T.J. McConnell was here. Brett Brown had to take the ball out of his hands because they exposed him offensively. When Jimmy Butler was here, it took the Sixers too long to realize, hey, we got to run this offense through Jimmy Butler. And now they did it again, and they figure out way too late that this guy is completely ineffective. We're coddling him. But where I'll turn is, there are a lot of issues with this team. And the big guy that nobody can criticize. What year are we in with Joel Embiid? He's still gassed at the end of every game. He's still a turnover machine. The only place you can get more turnovers is at the bakery than Joel Embiid, and he does it in key situations. And by the way, Jody, if you go back to this series where they lost this series, I think it was game 4, so they were up 2-1. They had the big lead, and Joel Embiid goes 0 for 12 in the fourth quarter. So don't get me wrong. Ben Simmons was atrocious. He doesn't even shoot the ball. He shouldn't be on the floor unless you have timeouts and you're playing offense, defense. But there are a lot of questions about this team. And for a guy like Joel Embiid, people aren't even ready to have the conversation. It's sort of the same thing with Ben Simmons. They protect him. Now they've turned on Ben Simmons. At some point, they're going to figure out this guy's got some serious flaws himself.
That was the only heartening thing for last night's loss to me. They lost as a team last night. Yeah, Ben Simmons is the easy whipping boy, and he does deserve every critique and criticism that he gets. And, yeah, I've been on his case pretty good all year long. You made the point of him being a role player. You can't be a role player when you're pulling down a max money contract in a capped league. That's just not that.
But that's what he is. I'm not talking about the money. I agree with you.
Well, you can't not talk about the money. The money is part of it.
Well, that's
the contract. They gave him the contract.
Jody, that's part of the organizational failure. Look, I agree with you. The money matters when you're building a team. When you're out on the floor trying to win a game 7, the money doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm saying he's a role player. You have to admit to yourself, if you're the Sixers, we made a mistake. Yeah. He is a role player. We have to play different players if we want to get out of game 7. That's all I'm saying. That the offseason stuff, now you talk about the contract, he's not worth it, which is 100% correct. I'm not even arguing that. He's not a max player. He shouldn't make that money. He is a role player. You got to move him. Now you got to take pennies on the dollar. That's an organizational failure. But on the floor, it doesn't matter.
And that's what is going to be a big issue during this offseason. I think that a great majority of the Sixer fan base has swung over to, we just need to move on here. But it's going to be hard to move on because
it's amazing how quickly couldn't criticize him. Now it's like they're burning his jersey. So I'm going to go the opposite way.
And they should. And if there's any Sixer fans that are clinging to, hey, he is still a transformative player and we took him #1 over, forget it. We've seen enough.
Generational player. We got to get Jack McCaffrey on the show. I got to get Jack on the show because I always say, my most hated term in sports is generational player.
Right.
Because people throw it around every year. Generation means once in a generation. What is he? Yeah, he's a generational poor free throw shooter. You can say that. You can't say he's a generational player. By the way, you can't say Joel Embiid's a generational player. I got news for you. He's not.
Well, I'm going to cut JoJo some slack because he didn't have a great series and he's dealing with a torn meniscus. He was runner-up in the MVP of the NBA this year.
I don't care about regular season. I don't give 2 shits about regular season in the NBA, Jody. I don't care about stats. I don't care about anything. You can go back. I can go back on different platforms in South Jersey. I said this team is built for the regular season, because nobody game plans on Wednesday in Oklahoma City, and they're going to win a lot of games. And once you get to the playoffs and people game plan and people can take you out of games, they are not built for the playoffs. I didn't think it would be this bad. Even I didn't think it would be this bad. I thought they'd lose in the Eastern Conference Finals. If Brooklyn was healthy, I thought they had no chance. Turns out everything went their way. Brooklyn wasn't healthy. Milwaukee upsets. That's what hurts even more. Everything fell the Sixers' way, and they're still not built for the playoffs. They're not built for the playoffs. Don't care about the regular season.
The regular season, the Atlanta Hawks went nuts to finish out the regular season, and they carried it over into the playoffs. The Sixers just didn't do that. Shame on them. Shame on the individual players. Shame on Doc Rivers. Here's the thing where the rub's going to hit the road and get nasty here over the next couple of months. People are going to have to realize what the NBA looks at Ben Simmons as. Because if the Sixers... They do. And that's all you're going to get in exchange for him. And that's going to be tough because you got to somewhat max salaries unless a team has all this cap room and they're going to use it / waste it. On Ben Simmons, I don't know that team even exists. So this whole offseason is going to be about how they can trade Ben Simmons and basically get nothing in return. It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
And all you have to do, Jody, is go back to the trade deadline. And people called me insane for saying you pulled the trigger on James Harden if you can get James Harden. I mean, you get Ben Simmons the hell out of here. At the trade deadline, people were laughing at me. To win in the modern NBA, you need a guard or a wing player. Could be either. You see KD with Brooklyn, obviously, able to do a lot of things, even though they lost in Game 7. He carried them there.
Yeah, it wasn't because of him.
Yeah, exactly. You need somebody who can create their own offense. Watch the end of close games. Trae Young, what he's able to do, whether he's making shots or not, for his teammates to get them good looks versus the plodding nonsense the Sixers have to run on the offensive side because guess what? They're coddling a former #1 overall pick. They don't want to upset him. So what do, Jody? They give him the ball. As soon as he crosses midcourt, he's got to give the ball up because he can't be fouled, because he can't go to the free throw line, and you're wasting, I don't know, 8 to 9 seconds of a shot clock, and then you're already in the muck, and you don't have anybody who can create their own offense.
Well, and they've got major issues as far as that is concerned going forward. But first things first, they have to figure out if they can get anything for Ben Simmons, and I'm not sure they can. I came up with a list. And again, Eagle fans, we'll get to the Eagles in just a second. Johnny and I just needed to vent here as Philadelphia sports guys for a second on the 76ers. I came up with a list of 50 players in the NBA.
I'll take every one of them.
That I would take over Ben Simmons. 1-for-1 deals at this stage of their career. 50.
I haven't even seen the list. I'd take every one of them.
Yeah, and I never had that high a number, but yes, this playoff with his just horrendous free throw shooting has pushed that number up and up and up and up and up. But the Sixers are done. The season's over. The season never ends if you're a real fan, because now you have to figure where do we go from here? We do the same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.